Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Vonbeardingham here, and tonight for my Endo interview, she has two potential names, so I'm going to let her tell us what she prefers to go by, either her stage name or her given name. What name do you
We can
prefer?
Kemah's fine.
Say that again, sorry?
Kemah's fine.
Kemah. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined from across the pond by Kemah, who is residing in Texas, I do believe. Is that correct?
Yep.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us. It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
So, first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I live in Texas. I'm 21. I'm a singer, songwriter, trying to be, and love animals. I have a lot of them, and that's about everything.
All the important things. Excellent. Okay, so let's go back to the start of where you first discovered that, or you first noticed signs and symptoms that things weren't right for you.
So I can't remember the exact age. I know it was either 12, 13, 14, kind of around there. For the very first time, I tried to put a tampon in, and it was excruciatingly painful. It was so painful to the point where I couldn't do it. I was so bummed because I had planned on going to a water park. There's a big water park in the town I live called Schlitterbahn. And so my friend and I had planned on going and everything, and I could not put the tampon in. And so I almost didn't go. And so I kind of just winged it.
Right.
And so that was kind of a little abnormal. And I asked my friends, hey, is it like this for you? And they all said, no, not really. And so I just kind of thought, well, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. At that age, it didn't really affect me that much, not being able to use tampons. So I didn't really care. And then it kind of just like, as I got older, the more things that came up, the worse they got. And so like my periods started getting really bad, really painful. I started getting really random symptoms like really bad headaches and horrible just like weakness of the body. And it always tended to like go along with my cycle. And I saw maybe 8 different gynecologists. I just kind of, one wouldn't work out, I'd go to the next. That one didn't work out, I'd go to the next. And it was just constantly being told, oh, all girls think that. All girls have bad periods, or, or you're exaggerating, or, it might feel that way, but it's really not. And not once did I ever hear anything about endometriosis. I had no idea what it was. And when I was 18 was when it really got bad. And I mean, I'm sure you've probably from, talking to people like me who have endometriosis, I'm sure you figured out that it tends to be accompanied by a lot of other problems as well. And so so it started out as like, okay, fine, this and this hurts, but whatever, I can live with it. Then it kind of migrated to, oh no, now I can't hold my pee for longer than 30 minutes. Okay. My bladder's, I started peeing up to 7 times in the night.
Wow.
And that was when I was 18, yeah. And so it kind of, and at first I was just kind of content. I thought, whatever, if this is how I have to live, this is how I have to live. But it finally did get to a point where I was like a walking zombie. My job at the time was to be a dog walker, and I had to cancel so many times, and I felt so bad because I would wake up in the morning and I got maybe an hour of sleep, and I could not physically get out of bed. And so finally I went to another gynecologist. Same thing, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And so decided, you know what, I'm just going to go to Planned Parenthood because they were the ones who got me birth control the first time. They have helped me on numerous occasions. So I went to Planned Parenthood, and they didn't have, all the technology and all that kind of stuff to really dive deeper with me. But just by doing an exam and hearing my symptoms, they told me, I'm pretty sure you have endometriosis. And I had never heard of it before. And I started researching it, and all of the symptoms lined up with what I had. And I started kind of telling my family, telling my friends, and it kind of became this weird thing where they would tell me, oh, now you're diagnosing yourself. And it was like I was doing it for attention. And really it was just, no, I want some validation, because I've been in pain for years, and all these doctors telling me I'm crazy, I'm making it up. And so finally, I got referred to a doctor who specializes in that. And right upon meeting her, same thing. They talked to me, heard my symptoms, and they said, yeah, I mean, of course, they can't diagnose you without surgery, but they said, pretty sure you have endometriosis. And so they, because it had gotten so bad to where I was not even able to function, I mean, the quality of life for that month waiting for surgery was so bad. And I remember thinking to myself, like, if this is, in this moment, if this is how I have to live the rest of my life, then I kind of don't want to. It was so horrible. I couldn't enjoy anything, constantly in pain, tired, and everything. And so anyway, finally surgery came. So they were able to schedule it within a month, which was so awesome. And I felt great for about 4 weeks. And then I remember the exact date, on July 15th. So I had my surgery June 1st of 2018. And on July 15th, everything got worse. And it was the weirdest thing, because I had gone in for my checkups, and I was healing properly. I felt completely, recovered from the surgery. And then on July 15th, I started heavily bleeding, and I went back to awful bladder pain, really just everything. Indigestion, just absolutely everything. And I started heavily bleeding, and I didn't stop heavily bleeding for 8 months. Every single day. Yeah, it was absolutely awful. And then with that comes a whole nother list of problems, because I couldn't use tampons, so I had to be using pads. So then I started getting rashes, because, you're not meant to wear that every day for 8 months. And so I started getting horrible rashes, and it was just awful. And I went to the doctor multiple times saying, hey, what's wrong? Like, I've been bleeding this long. And she just didn't really seem concerned. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I had to leave that doctor because there were some differences of opinions. And finally, I went to a new OBGYN, so this was like the 10th one. And she said, well, did your doctor not put you on any iron supplements? And I said, no, what are you talking about? And she said, well, your body's not meant to bleed for 8 months, and so you need iron. And I was so shocked that my previous doctor hadn't even mentioned it to me. And so I got checked and everything, and finally I stopped bleeding. And it's just, I feel like that was kind of where things shifted, especially because that was the time when things were supposed to get better. That was after the. And it was really frustrating, because I had a friend who had the surgery a week before me. And after she healed, I asked her, how do you feel? And she said, oh my gosh, all my symptoms are gone. I feel amazing. I'm healed, basically.
Yeah.
And so frustrating watching her good for her. It helped her so much. But I was just like, well, damn it. Why me? Like, why is it still happening to me? And so that doctor I ended up seeing, the 10th one or whatever, wasn't even the last one. So now I'm with a gynecologist that is amazing. So amazing. Every little thing, every question I have, she helps me. And I feel like right now we have it managed okay, to where, I'm not missing work, or, I'm not super depressed about how I'm feeling regarding my health conditions. So I feel like we have it kind of managed okay right now. It's definitely not to the place where I would want it to be, but I'm at least able to sleep somewhat through the night. I probably get up about 2 or 3 times, which to me is amazing. But then, I tell that on, my grandma says, well, me too, but I'm 90. What's your excuse? And so, kind of like, okay, I guess it's not that good still, but I mean, anything is better than how it was after the surgery.
Can we ask a question I was going to ask, and someone in the chat has asked as well? What exactly was the surgery? What did you have done?
So it was a laparoscopic surgery. So they, mine was the excision. I know that there's some that are ablation and some excision. Excision is supposed to be better because they actually remove the lesions instead of just burning them off.
Okay.
And they went with a machine or whatever it is, I guess, and left. So there's 4 scars on my stomach, and basically they inflate you with gas so that they have room to work with it and everything. So I was diagnosed with stage 3 endometriosis.
Okay.
And there's 4. But the thing with endometriosis is, I mean, technically the stage doesn't really matter, because some women are in stage 4 and feel no pain at all, and then some women are in stage 1 and they are just dying inside. And so it really just depends on the person. But the surgery was not bad at all. That itself was fine. Recovering, I would say the first week was rough, but that's the same with any time you go under anesthesia. I had that's another thing, that not only did it make my bladder worse, I got interstitial cystitis, which is a bladder flare-up disorder, which is also chronic and no cure. And then I also started having digestion problems. So I had to have a colonoscopy and endoscopy this year. And I was diagnosed with gastritis and IBS. And then those 2 I know are correlated with the endometriosis, because it's all, in the relatively same area, and it's all having to do with inflammation. But I got diagnosed with acid reflux. I don't know if that's similar or I mean, if it's related or anything like that, but yeah, so it just was like one problem after another. The second we, got my bladder to a place where it was good, then my IBS started flaring up, and then this and then that. And so I had to actually see a dietitian weekly earlier this year for a couple of months, because I had so many problems, and I was on 11 prescriptions, and I don't really like taking medication. I don't like how it, affects me. And so I just got tired of taking so many pills. So I tried to just kind of do stuff naturally, like with my diet, but that still isn't 100%.
So, I mean, the amount of gynecologists you've seen so far with everyone I've interviewed, you have the record so far. But so when you saw these gynecologists, what kind of thing were they saying to you? What were their opinions, or what was their response to?
Well, so the first gynecologist that turned me down when I talked to him, it was a guy, and so I just automatically kind of assumed like male gynecologist bad, and so I just kind of thought like he didn't hear me out. He basically just said, you're exaggerating. He said, I know what I'm talking about. And so I thought for sure, okay, the solution is just get a female gynecologist. Well, then all of the female gynecologists after that did the same thing. And so they basically just said the same thing. You're exaggerating. I think that I'm a hypochondriac. Just tons of things like that. Or, if you think that's painful, wait till you give birth, and like just kind of making comments that were completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Who cares if a girl gets bad periods, which isn't true, but even if they do, I'm right in front of you right now. I'm paying you to tell me that you're going to hear me out and you're going to listen to me. And there was a few gynecologists that I begged them. I said, please do an exam on me. I would say, please, do a pelvic exam, do an ultrasound, do something. And I have no idea what the reasoning, but almost every time I asked, they said, no, it's not needed. So and I just thought,
it's crazy. The stories we've heard so far from the other people we've interviewed, it's been a very similar experience for them too. When you went to the family planning clinic, so what was the difference in I know you said obviously that all of the symptoms that you had, they said matched endometriosis, but how did they do things differently? What was the difference between them and the gynecologists?
Well, to begin with, they, it could be maybe like a scheduling thing, but they sat me down and they really just took the time with me. Like I would say, that visit was only $20 to me because it was technically, like it was like a charity type of thing or what, they try to help people, and I didn't have insurance at the time. And so that was my cheapest appointment. And they spent so much time with me. Like I would say I was there for maybe an hour actually with the nurses and with the doctor. Wow. Whereas at the other place, 15 minutes in and out. And so they really sat down with me. They talked to me about every single option. They talked to me about every single birth control there is on the market. They talked to me about everything. They were writing notes, and kind of like you're doing, they asked me, when did these symptoms start? And just questions that I had never even thought about because I was never asked them. And so when they sent me back with the physician or doctor, I'm not sure, but when they sent me back with her, like I said, they didn't have any equipment to do an ultrasound or anything like that, but they definitely made do with what they had. They did a pelvic exam on me, and they kind of like felt around my stomach, and they could tell how much inflammation I was having, and they basically just did all of the things that the other doctors said no to. They did the pelvic exam on me. They did that, and then they talked to me about my options. They talked to me about what they think it might be. And that's the problem too, is that I think a lot of doctors are afraid to tell you, think you might have this, because it's a scary thing that you have to go into surgery to be able to diagnose it. Yeah. And some people can't afford that. So, and if you're new to endometriosis, it doesn't make sense. I have to have a surgery and you don't even know if I have that. And so I think that a lot of doctors are kind of hesitant to go there because they don't want to, they don't want to freak you out if you don't have it, and they don't want to make you get surgery and all that stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, tell me what you think I have.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you're going to these people, you're looking for answers. And I think from the interviews we've done, it seems that a lot of the gynecologists aren't actually qualified and to be able to diagnose something like endo. And also the fact that it's still a relatively unknown new illness. A lot of so many just members of the general public have never heard of it, which is one of the reasons why we're doing these interviews. But it seems I know nurses that I say endometriosis to them and they have no idea what I'm talking about. Of course, my family and friends, it's so well known to them because they have me to tell them everything that I know about it. But there's been a lot of times where I've mentioned endometriosis, whether, when you go into the doctor, they say, do you have any pre-existing conditions, or what medications are you on? And they'll say, why are you taking that, or whatever? And say for my endometriosis, and they go, what? and they have no idea. And, of course that's not their fault individually, but it's just really sad that it's still not known. Yeah. And also you've mentioned your friends and your family. As you said, at the beginning, when you were first going through this, they weren't so supportive. As you said, I think they sort of made it out that you were exaggerating.
that they've always kind of seen me as like the boy who cried wolf, because and that's another thing, is that now my doctor thinks I also have fibromyalgia, which is a pain disorder, and that would explain a lot. But anyway, I think that I was always just kind of seen as the boy who cried wolf because I was constantly getting injured. I guess I was just really fragile, but I was constantly getting hurt, constantly getting sick. I got scarlet fever when I was younger, and everyone thought I was making it up, but I actually had the doctor tell me. They diagnosed me with it, and then I got meningitis. Like, I've always just gotten these random things, and so I think it just kind of became this thing where I think everyone just thought, okay, whatever, you think you have another thing that you probably don't have. And my parents kind of saw it in a similar way. And I think the moment when they realized, oh, okay, I guess you're right, is when, like I said, that doctor scheduled my surgery for 3 weeks from the day that I went in to see her for the very first time. And, usually surgeries take a little while to schedule, and she fit me in right away. And so I think that was kind of a wake-up call to them. And luckily now they're very, very supportive.
Good.
But yeah, that was very tough at first.
Because we've noticed with people who suffer this, and something we were talking about just before we did the interview, because you are a singer, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Endo tends to do is have an impact on people's jobs, people's careers. So how did that impact you from a professional work point of view?
Well, it definitely, it kind of made I would go weekly to see my producer. It kind of turned those weekly trips into bi-weekly. So I was I think that's the right word for it. Yeah, where I was going every, and then performances went from once a week to maybe once every other week. And finally it got to the point where I kind of just had to say, you need to give me like a month heads up before you schedule something, so that I know that I can prepare, because I kind of know my body enough now to where I know, okay, I should stop eating this 5 days before I need to go somewhere, or I need to stop this, and so I'm able to kind of work around it now. But at first, when I didn't know my body as well, that was really tough. I remember the first time when it really, really impacted my music was I had driven all the way, an hour and a half away, to a performance, or maybe an hour. But I got there, I was ready to perform. I felt so good. My friend drove me. I was happy. And I get there, and it wasn't nerves, because there was honestly barely anyone there. So it wasn't nerves. It was just, and especially, I had already performed there many times, so it wasn't nerves, but I started feeling like I was going to faint. And I started blacking out. I was getting really dizzy, and it totally made sense. This was about a month or two before I finally saw that doctor who scheduled me for surgery. And she told me that that is one of the main symptoms. And I don't know. I think every doctor kind of has a little bit of a different opinion on why that happens. She said it's because your body is working so hard to kind of fight that inflammation and fight, what's going on down there, that your blood flow, like everything's just a little bit off. And so it was just the worst thing ever when I got there, having to explain to the people who hired me to perform that, oh yeah, I just drove an hour, I felt great on the ride up here, and I walked in, and now I'm fainting. Like, it was just the worst thing to explain, because, how else is someone supposed to take that? And so that really, really was awful. But like I said, I was able to kind of manage there for a while, where I just knew, okay, do this, don't do this. But it definitely still gets in the way sometimes, and I'm definitely weary of scheduling anything major. And I think that's definitely part of the reason why I've kind of not taken a lot of opportunities, is because I'm scared to sign up for something big and then flake at the last moment, because I'm in pain.
Yeah, well, completely understandable. We've got quite a few comments and questions here.
Okay.
Let's first of all, oh my God, she's a baby. Yeah, you are incredibly young compared to a lot of the people who we talk to.
Yeah.
So where have we got? So it's not so. My partner who suffers as well, she said, so it's not just me that has to pee so many times in one night. Yep, seems to be.
Yeah, that's. I would say that's one of the worst parts because I'm so used to going through the day with pain that it's honestly not a big deal anymore. But at nighttime, that's the time when your body is finally supposed to be able to rest.
Yeah.
And the second I'm comfortable, I get the urge to pee again, and it's just. I mean, it's horrible. I would say that is probably, if I could solve any of my problems as far as endometriosis goes, I would say the bladder issue would be the number one thing, because it even keeps me from going places. Like, I myself, where's the nearest restroom? Like that, I never thought I would think about that until I'm, older, and I'm already thinking, okay, but how long do I have to go without access to a restroom, and how long this and that, and that's just constantly on my mind.
Believe me, your story and your symptoms and everything are shared by so many others on here. What do we have here? The upper GI and digestive issues, also the fibromyalgia as well. That I think, because a lot of from what I've learned and heard so far, is that the symptoms are also very similar, and that's one of the reasons why endo is so difficult to diagnose, is because its symptoms feature in so many other illnesses and a lot of autoimmune illnesses as well. Can I ask a question? Were you a very would you say you're quite a highly strung person, a very stressed person, or are you quite a calm, relaxed person in general?
I would say it's kind of made me really high strung, because, which this is interesting, because my boyfriend, we've been together for 4 years, and he met me after my endometriosis got bad. So he didn't know the carefree me, the relaxed me. He's only known the high strung and very very uptight kind of person, and I've kind of had to become that way, because I think about things like, just for example, if someone stays at our house, I know that it's going to take a lot of energy from me to be able to clean up after them. So no, they can't stay with us, because it's going to take so much out of me. And, I'm already dealing with this, and this. But when I was younger, I at least from what I remember, I wasn't that way. So I definitely think I've slowly become that way.
Oh, it's completely understandable. I mean, one of my other interviewees, she was the same. She said that after she came out the other side, she had a hysterectomy. She was stage 4, a really, really bad case. But she looked back on the person she was while she was suffering with it, and she said she barely recognized that person. She was just not herself at all. So completely understandable.
Did hysterectomy help her?
It did. Yeah, she's I can't remember how long she's had it now, but for her, she was, so far, obviously, fingers crossed, she's one of the success stories. So
that's awesome.
She's in her 30s, so you're so young, so it's really tragic that it's striking somebody of your age.
Well, I think, but then I'll go into the endometriosis support group, and it just it makes me want to cry. I'll see a girl say something like, hey, I'm just, looking for some help. I'm 14 and I just got diagnosed with endometriosis. And it just makes me so sad, because I just think, oh my gosh, it's going to make me cry. Because I just think about the fact that, I was young, but I was 18 or 18. I was 18. And so, I could deal with it, and I couldn't imagine being a young teenager. Already you deal with so much at that age.
Yeah.
And then dealing with that, I mean, I couldn't even imagine that.
Well, especially when you're at that age, and if you're going through puberty, you've started your periods, as you say, you're in a very you're in a sort of a moment of complete flux in your life where everything's new, you're completely unsure about all the changes in your body, and if you are experiencing this kind of thing, this level of pain and suffering, and then you go to see people who are supposed to, gynecologists who are supposed to reassure you, who are supposed to, and you've disappeared.
Sorry, I thought I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, but I guess I didn't. Okay.
That's right.
Sorry,
right.
Continue.
So you go to see gynecologists, and if you're not getting the support and you're being told the kind of things that you were being told, that, you're over-exaggerating or this, that is going to be mentally crippling for young women. So it's a horrible state of affairs. We're just having a look through the comments here. Someone says, I honestly think in the UK this is an issue because of money. I think higher management tells their staff to put off various procedures unless it's really bad because of the cost. So that's interesting, actually, because obviously over in America, there's a lot more private healthcare. So was all yours paid for?
No. Luckily, when I was 18, I was in a position where my dad was able to pay for, he paid for most of it. I think that I was on government insurance at the time, and so I did get a decent deal, but it was still, a couple $1,000s, and Dad was very generous. He helped big time with that. But everything after that, I have had to pay for. And so this year, because I had the colonoscopy, endoscopy, and then I must go to the gynecologist like twice a month. And so for all of that, not including like the monthly premium, I've spent around $6,500 this year on healthcare. And that, like I said, that doesn't even include the premium every month. And so it's definitely a really expensive condition to have. I mean, it could always be worse. But it's not cheap.
Well, no, see, for us Brits who have the NHS, when we hear about these kind of expenses and these bills that you guys are hit with over there in America, it's just absolutely staggering. It's hard for us to take in. So you have our utmost sympathies.
Well, another thing is that, and I didn't realize this until I had to kind of look for new birth controls, is that birth control it doesn't have to be covered under insurance. So there were a few months where I had to pay $200 a month just for my birth control. And even though my doctor deemed it medically necessary, because I've tried, I think 6 different birth controls, 5 or 6. And so the one that I've been on recently has helped tremendously. And so my doctor deemed it medically necessary, and my insurance didn't agree. So I had to pay a couple of times, and then finally they started covering it, but it was such a fight to get it covered. And that was actually why I had to go to Planned Parenthood before the whole getting diagnosed with endometriosis. I couldn't afford birth control, so I had to go there. And so they have a great program as far as helping girls go and everything. They for $20, they said all you need to do is give us a donation of $20 or more, and we can give you a 3-month supply of birth control. So I donated $20. I got 3 months of birth control. Yeah, so that was, I don't know what I would have done. I just wonder to myself, if I hadn't gone to Planned Parenthood, how much longer was it going to take to get diagnosed? Because if I hadn't gone there, I wouldn't have heard endometriosis. I wouldn't have felt validated to the sense where I need to actually, because before I was very timid. The doctor would tell me, oh, you're fine. And I would go, okay, I guess you're right. I am fine. And then finally after that, I thought, you know what? No, I'm not fine. So I'm going to find the doctor that actually listens.
What was the birth control you were put on that really helped?
The one that I'm on right now is low estrogen. And I had never experienced, well, and that's another thing that comes with endometriosis, is so many body issues, because your body's doing crazy things. It's almost like you're not even in your own body. Like, I would say and even though, of course, as you age, things change. Going from 17 to 20, it's not that big of a jump. And my body changed so much from endometriosis and everything. And so it was really hard when I went on this birth control and I started gaining a lot of weight. I gained around 20 to 25 pounds. And that was really hard for me because I was at a steady weight my whole life. And so just adding that on was really, really frustrating. So once I got over the initial shock of gaining that weight, I was completely okay with it for the birth control that I'm on, because it has just been so amazing.
Sorry, can I ask again what the name of it was? Because for some reason the audio cut out just as you were saying it.
It's called Low Estrin Fae.
Thank you. Just so that everyone out here can look into that. One of the people I interviewed, Leanne, she says, there seems to be a glaringly obvious autoimmune link. Why isn't this being researched if it's evident after these series of interviews? How are medical professionals not noting this and doing something about it? It's so frustrating. There does seem to be, again, say, whether it's fibromyalgia and the IBS, all of these things. And you could understand, obviously, if you're going through such trauma and stress in your body that you are going to be upset about it, you are going to be stressed about it. That's probably going to exacerbate various other symptoms and illnesses in your body as well, cause other things too. It just seems we're sort of at a loss, really, that when we're talking about this, that why more isn't being done.
Well, interestingly, some doctors consider endometriosis to be an autoimmune disease. It's not technically classified as one, but I have seen doctors who do believe it to be an autoimmune disease. And whether that's based on, research they found or just in a personal opinion, I don't know. But definitely from what I've gone through and from what I see in the endometriosis support group, definitely a link, for sure. I mean, hands down, because I think, for example, my friend who has it, and the surgery helped her tremendously. She didn't have it too bad, and she doesn't seem to have any other correlating issues. And then all the women that I know who have it bad, it's not just the endometriosis. No. It's the bladder, it's just tons and tons of things. And so that kind of just adds to our feeling of not being validated. And I think that's why, as someone with endometriosis, and I'm sure everyone else who has it can agree with me, that you're just constantly being told, oh, you're exaggerating this and that, because you get diagnosed with endometriosis and then you have a long line of more problems. And so it just, I can't put myself in anyone else's position, but I couldn't imagine thinking to someone, you're making it up, and it's also not something anyone would want to make up, because why would we want to look fragile? Why would we want to look like we have all of this long list of health issues? It's not something that I want. I would much rather be one of those people that isn't on a medication, doesn't have any problems, can eat whatever I want and not let it affect my entire body.
So, believe me, you are, when you say about putting yourself in other people's shoes, everyone we spoke to so far, you're all in each other's shoes. You are all going through exactly the same thing. Obviously, various degrees and various differences, but the way you've been treated, the way you feel.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to ask, when you had I can never say it right. Laparoscopy?
laparoscopy. Yeah.
So what did they actually find in there? What were the results? Because I know from some of our previous interviews, they had like fusion between the womb and the bladder and the bowel. What was the results of yours?
So to be honest, I never looked too deep into it.
That's fine.
So I just kind of passed it along to my other doctors, like the new gynecologist that I'm with. All I know is that it was stage 3 and that there were lesions everywhere. I think it was just, I mean, I don't know if you've seen photos from now I can't say it. from that I was fine saying it before, but now I can't. But if you've seen pictures from that surgery of the insides, it's not something that is easily digestible. It's something that's really hard to look at. And so I kind of just looked at the pictures, right, coming off of the anesthesia, and then did away with them. I kind of, every once in a while, if I'm telling someone about it, I kind of, like, oh, you want to see my insides? And I'll show it to them. But other than that, I haven't really looked too much into it, so I don't know.
That's fair enough. Another American, Mr. T.L. James, he says, in America is estimated 10 to 20% of women have this. About 1 in 10, so that would be right. This is a big problem. I asked 10 people, 7 women, and no one had heard of it. I didn't either until these discussions. It's crazy, isn't it? Something that is that common. I think I was told it's as common as diabetes.
Wow.
But yet unknown. It just makes no sense whatsoever. We don't know. In your opinion, do you feel it's maybe along the lines of because it's women's problems, so therefore people feel it's still a bit of a taboo issue, not something that people want to discuss openly? Or do you think that it's just an unknown illness where more needs to be looked into?
I think that we're definitely conditioned when we're very young that the girls are the sensitive ones and the boys are tough. And so when you're a girl and you're having these issues, first of all, it's hard enough to tell your parents or your friends. I was very nervous to talk to my friends about it. And secondly, it's very, very hard to be heard when you have anything having to do with the female reproductive system. Even just, one time I had a UTI and the doctor didn't want to do a urine test. And it was just the weirdest thing. And I asked him, I said, please, I am here for a urine test. And he wouldn't do it. And 5 days later, it turned out I did have a UTI and it had gotten way worse. And so I just think that women's issues are definitely kind of like pushed down. And on the flip side of that, though, I also think because of that, girls are afraid to say anything. So, half of the time, maybe it's the doctor's fault. But I do think sometimes girls are so afraid to say how they feel. I have friends who, whether it was endometriosis symptoms or something else, they got scared to tell their doctor. One of my friends was afraid to tell their doctor that they thought they had chlamydia. And so they didn't tell him, and they went and they waited to go to a second doctor. And so I think that part of it is on the doctor per se for not really hearing them out. But I do think that it needs to be normalized so that girls can actually talk about it. Because I mean, if I had been, shown the endometriosis support group 3 years ago, I would have said, hell no, not joining it. I don't want to talk to anyone about this. That's me. That's personal. And now I think I'm part of like 3 of them. And obviously I want to talk about it. And so I think that it definitely needs to be normalized, not only so doctors hear us out, but so girls feel safe to share it.
Absolutely. And we really, really appreciate you sharing your story with us. As we say, it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that needs to be acknowledged, because going through this kind of thing is not normal. It's not something it's levels of pain that I can't comprehend and have never experienced in my life, and how sufferers like you get by day to day, I will never understand. It's an incredible feat that you managed to just keep going.
Oh, thank you.
So what happens now for you? What's your immediate future when it comes to treatment? What's the horizon looking like for you?
Well, 6 months ago, I would have said probably nothing, just kind of still doing what I'm doing and just being content with that. But my boyfriend and I have actually tried or decided to start trying to have a baby.
Oh, wow.
Because of multiple reasons. One, because of coronavirus, we're all at home, and right now all of my performances have been canceled until further notice because of COVID. So it wouldn't really interfere with anything right now, and we have the means to do it. So right now just kind of feels good as far as that goes. But also because of course every woman is so different, but generally, your fertility starts going down at 35, but with endometriosis and with, all of the long list of inflammatory problems that we all have, it kind of starts going down a lot sooner than that. And so even though I'm 20, I've already had 3 miscarriages. And so it's one of those things where, like, if I don't do it now, I might not get a chance to in 5 years, And so we figured now might as well try. So I got off of the Lola Western Faye birth control. I got off of that. And so now we're trying for that. And it definitely is hard to think about the fact that we kind of have like a 50-50 chance of even being able to get pregnant and carry it. And so that's definitely frustrating. But again, being part of the endometriosis support group is so awesome because just as you see so many girls being, saying how in pain they are and everything, and of course that's sad, but it's good to help them through it. But just as many posts as you see like that, you see ones that say, I just got pregnant, or the surgery helped me so much. And so those kinds of things are so, so, so good to see, especially right now. So long story short, we are trying to have a baby.
Oh, I'm going to say congratulations in advance. But
thank you.
I suppose one of the other things as well, when you are suffering with something like endo, unfortunately, it seems to be the end result will be having a hysterectomy. So, of course, for someone of your age, that shortens down the amount of time that you have got for if you want to conceive and have a child. So as most people, as you said, would probably have into their 30s, your window, because of this, has been severely narrowed. So I suppose with that on the horizon, you want to try and, if you do want to have children, it's going to sort of have to be now, really, isn't it?
Well, and another thing that really, really scares me is that I've seen probably 4 or 5 different women post into the support group that they had to have emergency hysterectomies, whether they had something health-wise pop up or if some kind of emergency came up, they had to have a hysterectomy and it wasn't planned in advance. So they were completely blindsided and now they can't have kids. And that terrifies me, especially because I've been to the ER a couple times. That's another thing. Going to the ER when you have endometriosis does absolutely nothing. Not only are they, they're not taught that kind of stuff, but also it's not really meant for the emergency room because let's face it, the pains we're in right now, we're going to still have next week. So it's not an emergency situation. But anyway, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I lost it. But basically, I just feel like if that happened where I would have to have that, emergency type of situation, that would just terrify me. So gonna just kind of go right past that and just do it now.
Definitely. One more thing we'd like to ask. some various people in the chat are part of or have been part of various endometriosis support groups. And they've kind of had mixed experiences. They found like some helpful information and some good support, but they also tend to find a lot of people use it not in the most productive way, as a plate just placed more to vent or to complain rather than actually do some good. Did you find that in any of the groups?
Definitely. I think it's one of those things where, I mean, I have definitely had moments where I feel like doing that because I feel that way in that moment, but I choose to keep it to myself. So instead of diving deeper on that one post, I'll just kind of, think to myself, say a little prayer for them, and then just kind of keep going because I know how they feel. I think we can all empathize with that. But in my experience, there's been a lot more helpful posts than negative. I mean, of course, with any Facebook group, there's going to be those people that, just, it's like, why did you post that? And so there's always going to be those kinds of things, but I would say the pros outweigh the cons for sure.
Are there any groups you would recommend for people listening who might want to get involved with?
Yes. The only problem, and I've had this issue multiple times, that they're all just called endometriosis support group. It's just the profile pictures that are different. So it's kind of hard to explain which one it is. But if you are interested and you go on to Facebook and you type in endometriosis support group, the one that I use the most and the one that I found the most productive, it's just it's like the ribbon sign for breast cancer, but it's yellow. And there's like a yellow background in it. That one, which who knows, maybe I could be explaining like 20 of them, but the one that I am in that has that as a profile picture, it's amazing. It's
good.
Definitely very.
Well, what we'll do, if okay with you, after we finish the interview, if you'd like to send me a link, I can put the link in the video description, and then people can follow of their own accord.
Perfect.
Right. Is there anything, as we are drawing to a close, is there anything else you would like to say before we depart?
Just if you're having, I mean, this goes for anything, whether you have, a hurt leg or a hurt uterus, any of your problems, just try to be heard. And if your doctor isn't listening to you, go see a different doctor, because at the end of the day, even if there is nothing wrong, it's always better to be safe than sorry. I mean, you don't want to let problems get till they're too bad to where you have to have an emergency hysterectomy or something like that, So if something's off, your body best. So find somewhere that's going to listen.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really lovely to meet you and lovely to talk to you.
You too.
And so we will get that link off you and put it in the description afterwards. So all I can do really now is say take care and good luck in making babies. So hope it all goes well for you and your partner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care, and thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your support as well. So all the best, and see you soon.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Take care. Bye.